what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. We've got several interesting things to discuss today on this 4th of July, and by the way, I hope you're having a good one. But the first thing I want to discuss in this video is going to be the results from this past weekend's Orlando Pro Show, now that we actually have some HD photos and videos to look at and go off of here. So the results of that show, the winner at least, was pretty much what we all expected. Hassan Mustafa, honestly, in my opinion, after seeing the pictures and videos of him that were actually quality, I think he looked better here than he looked in Puerto Rico, which is big for him. In second place, you had Andrea Presti. In third place, you had Phil Klahar. In fourth place, you had Max Charles. And in fifth place, you had Tonio Burton. So Andrea Presti, that was kind of the surprise for me, because based on the footage that I had seen on Saturday, I guess it was, I couldn't really tell how he was looking based on the angles. All I could really see was Phil and Hassan. And to me, in the blurry footage, my eyes were drawn to Phil. But Hassan is, I think he's really starting to come into his own. I think he's really starting to figure things out. And this is what we wanted to see. This was like, for me, a big show for him. This was an important thing to determine whether or not he was going to be able to continue to consistently show up in shape or even improve upon it. And I really think he did. I think he looked better here than Puerto Rico based on what I've seen so far. Now, the really big thing will be months from now, in September, when he does the Arnold Classic UK. If he continues to show up conditioned months away, if he's able to do it again, and that would suggest that he's going to be able to do it again for the Olympia, I think he's going to be extremely dangerous. And I definitely think he's making a statement, even though, again, these are obviously not Arnold Classic or Olympia caliber lineups that he's winning, but they're decent. And I think this conditioned version of Hassan that we're starting to see is definitely a top 10 Olympian. I don't think many people would argue with that. He's definitely a guy that should be looked at right now as a top 10 Olympia candidate. I think his name should be in the conversation now with 2 professional wins. And I can't think of who else right now has 2. But if he does win the Arnold Classic UK, I think he'll be the only person from this year's competitive season with 3 wins. And to be fair, that is a very big if. We don't know how he's going to look at the Arnold Classic UK, but I do want to give him props here for continuing to show up in the best shape of his life. And I think, honestly, improving on how he looked in Puerto Rico. And it's kind of hard to compare because there wasn't a stream for either show. So we didn't really have great footage from Puerto Rico, didn't have great footage from this show in Orlando. So it's really hard to go off just pictures and videos. The stream, while people have their complaints about the stream, I think that level of access to professional bodybuilding shows, being able to watch a stream of almost every show during the season, is very valuable to bodybuilding fans that aren't able to go to Puerto Rico, or even not able to go to Orlando. I think it's very valuable to have those streams. And it gives you a much better idea of how these guys looked, seeing them actually in motion, posing next to each other, than just seeing the stage stills that we have from these shows. But I think right now, every bodybuilder right now that's looking to compete in the Olympia should be looking at Hassan as a top-level threat, because we've been saying this whole time, he's got a ton of muscle. I think from a muscularity standpoint, he can hang with almost anybody. So this conditioning thing, as long as he continues to improve and be consistent with it, I think he's dangerous at the Olympia. I really think he is. Top 6, maybe? Is that possible? Who knows? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Now, just minutes ago, we did get the full competitor list for this weekend's Mr. Big Evolution, which I believe is formerly known as the Portugal Pro. So that will be this coming weekend, July 10th. Right now, we've got 8 competitors in men's open bodybuilding. Morgan Asti, who I didn't know was doing the show, but he's doing the show. Tim Budashim, we knew he was doing it. Roberto Bonomo, Peter Clancier, we knew about him. Pablo Lopez Munoz, Cam Nazim, Vladislav Sharuchko. That's Vlad Sharuchko that we've been talking about this whole time. The young guy that has crazy conditioning, pretty big dude. And Antonio Tunenberg. So really, those 3 names, Peter Clancier, Tim Budashim, and Vlad Sukaruchko, I always get tripped up on that name. And now with the addition of Morgan Asti, those 4 guys really are the main guys we're going to be looking at here. I don't think we're probably going to see any names added here because it is kind of far out. It's in Portugal. So I think the people that were planning on traveling there have already committed to the show, and I don't think we're going to see anybody random jump in. But of those 4 guys, I'd say they're the 4 most dangerous for sure. But Vlad is really the guy that I'm looking to see. Vlad and Peter, really. I really think Vlad's going to make a statement here, and this is going to be a big show for him. Peter Clancier looking for some redemption after missing Indy and New York, but finally competing in Cali. He was a little bit off there, and I think that's why he placed where he placed. So he's looking for a little bit of redemption in Portugal. And maybe he will find it there, but I think out of all these guys, the most impressive updates that I've been seeing are from Vlad, so he's going to be the guy that I'm really looking at. Hopefully there is a stream for this show, maybe not. But I will keep you guys posted on that if there is a stream. So also in the news this past weekend, we had the M Pro Classic, which in classic physique was won by Fabian Meyer, a.k.a. Classy FM, and I thought he looked pretty good there. So he is now qualified for the Classic Physique Olympia. He's a guy that's kind of building a pretty large fan base right now. He's a taller guy, which seems to really suit these classic physiques. He's a guy that he's got really good flow to his physique, and he looked really good at this show. These two pictures that you're looking at right here in his hotel room were some of the most impressive shots that I saw of him. I thought he looked fantastic in these pictures. So he's a guy that we got to look at now in the Classic Physique lineup. We just talked about that the other day, how Classic Physique's got like 50 guys qualified, but a lot of them are really good. There might be some in there that are watering down the lineup a little bit, but I don't think Fabian is one of them. I think he's a guy that belongs up there, and he's a guy that I think should be considered as a threat. So shout out to Classy FM. Now, next up in the news, let's get to a controversial one here. So we talked a little bit about the, I guess you would call it beef, between Hadi Choopan and his former manager, Hadi Parsifar. So basically they had a falling out, and Hadi Choopan was like copyright striking the YouTube channel that Parsifar owns. So that was kind of like where their beef peaked, and they've had like kind of a long-standing back and forth of like some sketchy stuff that Parsifar was allegedly doing. And recently his brother, so Parsifar's brother, whose name is apparently also Hadi, which I thought was interesting, posted some stories in Arabic, and that's what this post by Buys and Tries here is referring to. And in those stories, he was referring to Hadi Choopan as Mr. Synthol. So he said, I'll just read what Buys and Tries wrote on their post, but this was in Arabic on his stories. Hadi Choopan and his manager, Hadi Parsifar, have recently parted ways. Shortly after that, Hadi received takedown notices for his YouTube channel, previously rebranded for Hadi. It's also worth mentioning that Hadi was called Mr. Synthol and Synthol People's Champion by Hadi Parsifar, who is Hadi Parsifar's brother. So I know it's kind of a confusing jumble of words here because all the names are so similar. But that's essentially the gist of this drama here, is they're calling him Mr. Synthol. And I do think that, surprisingly, I saw Iain Valliere's comment in the comment section. I thought he had one of the best takes on this, and this is kind of the first impression that I had as well when I saw these comments. I was like, it's kind of shady. I mean, it's kind of shitty that his manager would want to they would be doing this, and really the only goal of them doing it would be to disparage him. And honestly, to Ian's point here, are they really exposing Hadi here for something that we didn't already know was going on in men's open bodybuilding? Now, the question of whether or not it's affecting his physique in a negative way is a whole nother discussion, but the question of him actually doing it, and that being something that other professional bodybuilders are doing, is his manager actually exposing him with this, or is he just trying to make him look bad? And here's what Ian had to say. He said, like everyone's favorite 90s bodybuilders weren't filled to the absolute gills with esiclin, nolotol, and SEOs. This is bodybuilding. Literally nothing about it is natural. And even lots of guys who aren't obviously using it still likely are. This is a visual sport. There's no bonus points for how hard you work or how you attain the look. Hadi is clearly one of the top bodybuilders on the planet and one of the most popular. An ex-manager trying to ruin his good name with this nonsense is petty and pathetic. So I think he makes a really good point here, because whether or not Hadi uses site enhancement oil, which I think he does, and I think a lot of pros do, and it's a little bit more obvious on some than others, like Ian pointed out here, Hadi is still one of the best bodybuilders on the planet by the metric of his Olympia placings. He's still one of the most consistently conditioned bodybuilders by merit of his Olympia placings, and he's proven that against the best in the world. So regardless of what the site enhancement oil story is, if it's Synthol or whatever else, it doesn't really matter. And again, that's separate to the discussion of how it's affecting his physique, and maybe, is there too much, which I think is a different conversation. But the fact that he uses it at all, I think, is the root of this controversy here. And is the fact that he uses it really that big of a deal? I don't think it is. I would be willing to say that at minimum, and this is at minimum, the top 10 at the Olympia, I would say that 7 of the 10 are probably using site enhancement oil. 7 of the 10 at least. And to be completely honest, the ones that aren't using it are probably the ones that are 7th through 10th. They're probably on the bottom end of that top 10. So I just think it's something to think about, because we get these like negative perceptions in our heads, because we get these stereotypes, like with the Russian Synthol kid. When you think of Synthol, or you think of SEOs in general, your mind immediately goes to these extreme examples of these guys that look ridiculous and their arms are nothing but oil. But the reality of the situation is these guys use this as it's like a polish up. It's not like the entirety of their arm or their shoulder or whatever it is, it's not like that's the only thing that's there. And I think our minds automatically go to these extreme examples like Kirill Tereshin, or like some of these Brazilian guys that just do that. Like that's what they're known for. But the fact of the matter is, I think it's a very, very common thing in pro bodybuilding that's not that big of a deal. So in essence, that's my take on it. Is the fact that he uses it controversial? I don't think so. Are they really exposing him for something that we didn't already really know? I don't think so. I think most guys use it to different degrees, obviously. And I think, again, the conversation of whether or not he's using too much or going a little overboard with it, I think is a different conversation. But does the fact that he uses it matter? I don't think so. And I think in addition to the fact that this was obviously an attempt to make Hadi look bad, you can pair that with the fact that the videos that were posted recently of Hadi Choopan and claimed to be recent videos where his shoulders didn't look good, those were posted by Parsif Armadi. He was the one saying they were recent videos. So obviously that was done in bad faith because Hadi, the shoulders didn't look good there. And I think maybe those videos were being used to be examples of this Synthol statement. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about all the stories mentioned in today's video. Make sure you give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not subscribed yet already. Click that bell notification icon to be notified every time I upload so you do not miss one. Have a great 4th of July, and as always, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out.